afternoon, everybody. Call this recommending committee meeting of August 14th to order. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
And this meeting has been posted in various locations throughout the city.
Yes,
We will now move to the first item to be considered on our agenda, which is bill number 2007. Do you need the mics on? Or are they on?
Yes.
Okay. Bill number 2007-35, which allows additional types of alcoholic beverage-related uses in the civic zoning district by means of special use permit. It was sponsored by myself, and we'll have our attorney give us the background on it.
Okay, if you recall, the last meeting, we described the purpose of this bill, and there were some concerns raised about how it might open the door to private uses such as churches being able to establish these alcohol-related uses. I tried to send out an email to the committee members clarifying that this only applies to operations under the control of a government entity, and hopefully that resolves the issues.
Did everybody receive a copy of that memo? Vicki, you received it?
I did, and it was very helpful. Thank you.
Yes. It helped me also to understand. So I think the questions and the concerns we had for me no longer exist, because it wouldn't cause a spread into areas where we would not want it to spread.
Yes, and the clarification really worked out well for me. It answered all of my questions and concerns that I had for the ordinance as well.
Okay. Are there any comments from the audience, from the people who are present?
Tom McGowan, Las Vegas resident. An abundance of all types of alcoholic beverages are readily available throughout the southern Nevada greater regional area, including but not limited to the city of Las Vegas. What's the compelling, immediate, and continuing reason, if any, for the herein subject item? If none, I recommend you deny the item. And in the instance of approval of the item, what are the potential ramifications in terms of underage drinking, unruly gatherings, driving under the influence, and or lowering of the community standard of decency, if any? Have said you will respond to both questions in detail on the public record of today's meeting. I recommend you summarily deny the item.
Did you give your name and address?
Tom McGowan is my name. I live in the city of Las Vegas. The reason I don't give my address is because it would be reckless endangerment.
Okay.
I have been attacked in the past.
That's all right.
Having given my address in this forum.
I sort of figured that out from
Well,
past time.
you don't get figured out.
But
You stay off the streets. It's very simple.
But
the streets are dangerous.
excuse me, Mr. McCown.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to tell you that I felt we should put that on the record, that we did ask you to do that.
That's
because
fine.
That is something that is needed. Now, in answer to your first question, yes, there are many places that give alcohol, and the wording of this may be slightly misleading, but this was the problem. This civic designation allows the individuals to have a tavern license. And a tavern license they have automatically. But they don't want a tavern there. They don't want to have that in-depth type of liquor available. So what we did was, we had to pass this in order for them, believe it or not, to have a supper club license, which is a much less intensive use. Now, does that sound like it makes sense? Maybe not, but that's what our situation is. We are not increasing the amount of liquor that would be available. They already have the tavern automatically. What we have is trying to lessen the amount, and that's why this is put in there, so they can have a choice of a supper club.
With your indulgence, Madam Chair, I accept your reasonable explanation as partially explanatory, because the difference between a supper club license and a tavern license, while it may seem extremely pertinent to the council may not have the same sense of perception among the general public, particularly since neither of those terms are included in the text of the agenda item. So the public doesn't know what you're talking about until you actually say it.
Well,
And so therefore, what my point is if it's available elsewhere, generally in abundance for consumption, what's the exact reason for the need for it to be made available on a civic zone? That's the question.
yeah, they wanted to have a restaurant there. And let me tell you, what I'm trying to say is, this is not granting them the ability to be able to have liquor. They've got that automatically. What it is granting them, the ability to make it liquor and food, which I feel is a better level. So that's why we're doing that.
I understand that, Madam Chair. I also find it reasonable to assume, although this committee has not expressed it as such, that the city already has in place means of enforcement, detection and enforcement of that would preclude any of the unsavory or less desirable activities that can and in instances do take place in conjunction with liquor licensing. Although it's not stated in the item either.
We have in place, yes, in order to oversee exactly the way you're saying. The problem is, of course, we're also overextended. But we are watching that very closely.
All right, yeah.
And this is the Springs Preserve. All of the people at the Springs Preserve want to do this in the right way, and they will be monitoring very carefully, too.
Understand.
They are the ones who did not want the tavern. They preferred having it a lesser use of alcohol.
Are you saying that this bill is limited to the Springs Preserve exclusively and no other civic zones?
Could I have our legal answer that?
Let me.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Well, I wasn't going to answer the legal component of it, but what I was going to share is the reason for the advance initially was due to that concern that you bring up, because I was concerned about what are the other far-reaching effects to that.
Sure.
So that's why this item was obeyed, and to provide me the clarity. And I'll allow council at this time to come in and share what far-reaching effects it could possibly have and how, in fact, that will play into this
Thank you,
particular ordinance.
Member.
Okay.
I'm not sure I can answer all of Mr. McGowan's questions, but one question I can answer is that the Springs Preserve was the reason for the ordinance, and the ordinance is not limited to the Springs Preserve. It applies to all civic zoning districts.
Yes, I would assume it has to. And I will anticipate that the city council, including the members of this committee and the city attorney's office, will be very diligent and proactive in monitoring the situation, as already been expressed. Concerns have been expressed by another representative of another ward, Ward 5 in particular.
Right, and that's why I chimed in early on, Mr. McGowan, is due to that same fact, and the comfort level comes by way of it's on a case-by-case. Those items still must come back before the council for a special use permit, correct, council? And so that gives us the yay or nay to determine whether or not that particular use should be used in that particular situation.
In that case, I would recommend approval of the item, subject to those express conditions, and with the entire record published in the minutes for the public to perceive all of it. Incidentally, the words Springs Preserve does not appear anywhere in the text of the item for some particular reason. I don't know what the reason is, but the only way we know about that is because the chair told us about it. Thank you.
We appreciate your comments. And I think what Mr. Barla was saying, when the questions came up the last time that made us think, well, maybe it could be used in a way which isn't what we intended, that's when council looked into it further and got us to the point where we are now that we feel we can accept it. And thank you very much.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I would note with interest, I see nothing in the text indicates there'll be a martini glass, oversized or otherwise, implanted anywhere Springs Preserve. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Ted Russell, resident of Las Vegas. I must have been having a good day because I haven't been advantaged by the memo, but I had clarity on this before the memo. I appreciate your due diligence, and I also appreciate the due diligence of Councilman Barlow. And in that confidence, I do recommend approval, and thank you so much.
Did you want to say something? I wanted to say thank you for your comments. I know last time you were in support of it also. Thank you.
Thank you.
You wanted to say something?
Yes, if there's no one else.
Let
from
me
the
just
public-
ask one more time, is there anybody else here as participants who would like to add a comment? If not, Mr. Barlow.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I will move for due pass of this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is Bill Number 2007-42, annexation number ANX 21629, property location south of West Azure Drive between North Tenaya Way and Starlight Drive. Petition by Tenaya Azure LLC et al., acreage 6.53 acres, zone CP and RE, county zoning, PR and U, city equivalents, sponsored by Councilman Stephen D. Ross.
Yes, Councilwoman, this is a standard owner petitioned annexation. Everything is in order. Recommend approval.
Do we have any comments from the audience?
Tom McGowan, Las Vegas resident. In the specifically, what is the intended purpose of the subject annexation, and what are the names, official titles, principal headquarters address, and telephone numbers of the petitioners, Tenaya Azure LLC et al. I would indicate et al. May refer to as many as John Doe's 1 through 100, Jane Doe's 1 through 100. Who are they? As said, you respond to both questions on the public record of today's meeting. I recommend you swear to deny the item. We're talking about open public disclosure, nothing more.
I have to turn to counsel for that because I don't have that information.
We're not going to get into that, Mr. McGowan. If you want to go to the clerk's office and look it all up, you're free to do that.
Well, I haven't had time to do that, sir, but thank you very much for the suggestion. I know with interest that you state unequivocally you're not going to do anything about that. Thank you very much. Let that be on the public record as well.
And it is. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to make a statement on this item? Mr. Barlow?
I have no concerns in regards to this item, but I would like to move forward with due pass of this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We now move to the next item, Bill Number 2007-43, annexation number ANX 21949, property location on the south side of Kyle Canyon Road, approximately 670 feet east of Chamber Road, petitioned by Northwest Investments, LLC et al., acreage 16.80 acres, zoned RU, county zoning, U, PCD, city equivalent, sponsored by Councilman Stephen Ross.
Yes, Councilwoman, this is another owner petitioned annexation request. It's all in order. Recommend approval.
Do we have any comments from the audience?
Yes, you do. Tom McGowan, Las Vegas resident. Respective of the petitioners, Northwest Investments, LLC, the same questions and recommendation applies as was submitted on the previous item 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barlow?
Yes, move for due pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving to the next item, Bill Number 2007-44, annexation number ANX 21950, on the south side of Kyle Canyon Road, approximately 330 feet east of the Alpine Ridgeway alignment, petitioned by Burgett Glaske et al., acreage 6.72 acres, zoned RU, county zoning, U, PCD, city equivalent, sponsored by Councilman Stephen Ross.
Again, same presentation. Owner requested annexation. It's all in order. Recommend approval.
Any audience comments?
Yes. Tom McGowan, Las Vegas resident. Respective of the petitioners, Burgett Glaschke et al. The same questions and recommendation applies as was submitted on the preceding items 4 and 5, and in addition, respective of all 3 items, 4, 5, and 6 taken together, are the 3 items related? If yes, why isn't that public pertinent fact disclosed in the text of any one or all 3 of the items? As to respond to the questions on the public record of today's meeting, I recommend you summarily deny all 3 items inclusively. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's my understanding they are not connected. Do you have any knowledge of that?
As far as I know, they're not. They're related in that they're all annexations and that they're sequential on the agenda.
But as far as any other relationship, I'm not aware of any. And I will tell you that in a recommending committee, if the councilman who represents that area makes a move towards an ordinance, my feeling would be that he has investigated this very thoroughly and that he feels this is the right thing to do, and just to send it on to the full city council.
Well, the reason for the question is obviously they appear to be located in the same general vicinity. Is that correct, or am I subject to correction on that? The same geographic vicinity.
Do you know that, Margot? I don't.
They're all located in Ward 6.
And he's the one who's sponsoring the ordinance. But I don't know how close they are with each other.
That's the point. Nobody does. Well, nobody
Well,
admitted to it.
except Councilman Ross, I'm sure, does.
Well, perhaps he does, but he's not here.
No, he's not.
And so the public doesn't know. I'll go ahead and vote on it because you voted on something the public's not aware of. It's quite all right. Go.
Well, they can bring that up. If there were proof there was a problem, then we should certainly consider that here. If there is no proof or any type of indication there is, then I turn to Councilman Barlow.
I was talking.
Oh, it's just for the motion.
Okay. Move for due pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on, the motion passes. Moving on to the next item, Bill number 2007-45 adopts the Historic Properties Preservation Plan element of the Las Vegas 2020 Master Plan, proposed by M. Margot Wheeler, Director of Planning and Development.
Councilwoman, the item is an update of the 1992 historic preservation element of the general plan, the master plan that is required by NRS. There are no policy changes within the document. It is merely updating the previous element, which of course is many years old at this time, putting into the element all of the information with regard to previous actions taken by the council on various historic properties and districts, and bringing into one document all of the information that governs the work of the city in the area of historic preservation. Thank you.
So it's my understanding that this is not bringing anything new. All this is doing is consolidating the information that appeared in separate items before into one code-like.
That is correct, and it has been reviewed by all of the various departments, and they have not indicated any problem. We have made changes based on those comments, and it comes before you after having gone through all the various departments.
All right. Any comments from the participants in the audience?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom McGowan, Las Vegas resident. There's a difference between what is mentioned and what is not mentioned. They both have weight in certain circumstances. What's not mentioned is, for example, the historic preservation process is directly related to, specifically, structures, architecture styles, and eras. It says nothing about the people who occupied those structures, whether they be homes or businesses or other facilities, and nothing about whether or not the people themselves have historic value in terms of stories or achievements, accomplishments. And that, to me, appears to be a serious lack of important information. It's one thing to approve and authorize and go ahead and process a historic structure, whether it's federally registered, state registered, etc. Quite another matter to talk about the people who are in that structure, maybe who are responsible for it, or for its significance. And I would also add that there is value, monetary value, in the stories of those people. Moulin Rouge, for example, was already produced, not in the form that I would recognize, but it had monetary value. You could finance half what this city does by the historical value stories of its people. And yet, historical preservation is to no extent whatsoever concerned with that aspect of it. That's what I want to have on the public record in a manner of full disclosure, timely and full open public disclosure of all public pertinent business. It has nothing to do with qualifying your committee or your activities as a committee or your judgment as members of the committee. It has to do with government, proper process, and the public, finally, because it is the public's government. That's why it starts with we, the people, not we, the committee. Thank you.
And very good comments, Mr. McGowan, and point well taken. And I too stand on the fact that the city, not just the city of Las Vegas as we as the government, but the entire city, all municipalities, over the years have looked at the buildings that exist as implosions. And I truly believe now the city of Las Vegas, this municipality, is taking a strong approach in the sense of looking at values and people and structures of the historicalness of the units, such as the Postmodern Museum that we're reviving and bringing around to make it into a future mob museum. And historical preservation is something that's totally on our agenda, and something that I truly believe that as we continue to learn more and more about it, we'll take into account what you basically shared on the record as well.
With reference to your use of the term of the phrase mob museum, it's reasonable to conclude there already is a mob museum. Some call it City Hall. Now that was meant as levity, so it's okay to laugh at that. But after the laughter is over, stop and think very carefully about what this city is all about. It's not about buildings, it's about people. You are those people at this point. So am I.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll use the word we to give it the essence of community. Without community, the rest of it is nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ted Russell, resident of Las Vegas. In my rounds of meetings, I'm announcing the superenormous fact that in the USA Today, the weekend before last, it was announced that Forbes has established and announced that we, in 2006, were the most visited city in America. Everything you do, everything we do is important. This is very routine. It is a consolidation, but it's a lot of excellent, beautiful work. The Mob Museum is an example of the innovativeness that we are utilizing in the city of Las Vegas, because it's going to be absolutely unique and highly profitable, in addition to being preservation of a historical treasure. I do know how to make friends. This is an example of such good work that I think Director Wheeler should have at least 2 merit raises a year. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I'm sure that Director Wheeler likes that also.
I need to say Courtney Mooney, our Historic Preservation Officer, is the author of the document.
Well,
I
you
cannot take credit.
Whatever, share the accolades. Anybody else in the audience wishing to speak? Mr. Barlow?
Move for due pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We'll move on to City Council. The next item is Bill Number 2007-46. It establishes a sewer service surcharge in support of the city's financial obligation as a member of the Clean Water Coalition, proposed by Mark Vincent, Director of Finance and Business Services. Mr. Vincent.
Madam Chair, Mark Vincent, Director of Finance and Business Services. Probably would be helpful to give a little background on this. The city is a member of the Clean Water Coalition, otherwise known as CWC. Clean Water Coalition is a joint venture between, or joint powers agreement between the the Southern Nevada Wastewater Agency. So that includes not only Clark County's reclaimed water, I call it Water Reclamation District, but it's not what it is anymore. I apologize for that. But the Clark County Wastewater Agency, Henderson, North Las Vegas, and the Las Vegas Wastewater Agencies. And the CWC's purpose is to finance, design, finance, build, and operate a project called SCOPE. Now, SCOPE stands for Systems Conveyance and Operations Program, and it's kind of a fancy word for a system of delivering our treated, highly treated wastewater farther out into Lake Mead to get some beneficial results from that. And if I can just enumerate a few of those. Obviously, we have stringent water quality standards for Lake Mead, so discharging farther out in the lake and the deeper part of the lake helps with that. It also helps protect the Las Vegas Wash. When we discharge our treated wastewater into the Las Vegas Wash, sometimes we can get things like algae plumes in the Las Vegas Wash. So by discharging it out farther and deeper into the lake, we don't have those issues. We also are experiencing increased flows from discharge, and the higher flows can have a tendency to harm the wetlands in the wash. So by discharging some of those extra flows deeper in the lake, we avoid that. Obviously, drought conditions at the Lake Mead with the lowering lake levels, having to discharge again in the deeper part of the lake helps with that. And of course, protection of our drinking water and ensuring that we get our return flow credit. So that's the purpose of the CWC. We've previously approved connection fees related to new service customers, as have all the other wastewater agencies. We are the last wastewater agency now to approve this sewer service fee. This bill proposes a $7 per year fee on the equivalent residential unit, and that's an ERU. The CWC charges the City of Las Vegas and the other entities on the basis of the size of our flow, the 1 million gallons per day flow. We have to convert that to our billing system, and our billing system for customers, both residential and business customers, are based on an equivalent residential unit, or ERU. So that translates to $7 per day for a residential customer. For business customers, it will depend upon how many drain fixtures they would have in their business. We have published the business impact statement. I can tell you that I have only received 2 comments back, one positive, one negative. The positive one said we should charge more. So with that, we are recommending approval of this. And these monies, as I indicated, would be flowing from the City of Las Vegas, pardon the pun, to the CWC to pay for their financing and operations of the SCOPE project.
And what you're saying is this is a necessary thing to do,
Yes.
and that it's going to average a little over 60 cents a month, probably.
Just
Is that about right?
Just about that. Very good. It's about a 3.25% raise in a residential rate. 3.25% raise. And it will not be subject to future consumer price indexes.
Well, it's $7, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yes.
Just so that we can correct the record, John McNellis. I'm sorry. John McNellis with Public Works, just so we can correct the record. Director Vincent said $7 per day. It's $7 per year.
Well, that's what I thought it was.
$7 per year.
Per year, which comes out to just a little over 60.
She did the math right. John, I want to point out for the record that John didn't do the math right.
Oh, John.
Madam Chairman did the math
That's my
right.
weakest subject, too.
I'm always trying to look for more revenue toward the city.
One way or the other. But anyway, it comes out to a little over 60 cents per month, and it is something that needs to be needed that is very strongly needed due to the increase of growth within the valley. And is there any...
Madam Chair, I will
Yes.
tell you that Mr. John Brumley, the Chief Financial Officer for the CWC, is in the audience. If you had any questions in general about the CWC, he might be able to answer those as well.
Okay.
Yes, if you don't mind coming forward and just sharing a few words with us, if you will, please. Thank you.
Certainly. I'm John Brumley. I'm the Deputy Administrator of Finance and Contracts for the Clean Water Coalition, 150 North Stephanie Street, Suite 130, Henderson, Nevada, 89074. And what can I
Just
tell
as
you?
far as a little bit of background, as far as what you can share with us in regards to the clean water.
Certainly. Well, what happened probably in the before the year 2000, we were experiencing algae blooms in the lake, and that was contributed primarily to the high level of phosphorus in the effluent that's treated. It's not it's not terribly high, but it is enough to encourage algae growth if the levels of the bay are lower, which they are now because of the drought. And as a result, there were several studies that were taken up to identify how to correct that problem. All the wastewater agencies participated in the studies, and we had several studies performed by consultants to identify how to alleviate the problem. And the problem was identified as most effectively and efficiently alleviated through putting the return of the treated wastewater deep into the lake at various levels of the lake to have a mixing of the existing water in the Colorado River to minimize any concentrations of what they call nutrients, which would be like phosphorus and nitrogen. The way that the project is anticipated right now to be about $777 million in total. That's the entire amount that will be expended, including past expenditures and current expenditures and future expenditures. We're anticipating full operation of the system in 2012. And the way that we are paying for it is 2/3 through new development fees, which are through when people come in for plans for new development, they pay right now $800 per what they call equivalent residential unit. So and that is based on the wastewater flow from a single household. So it's like 90,000 gallons per year. So like for example,
I'm sorry. Let me chime in real quick. Is that prorated out, or is that at the current state as far as the average use?
For a household, that is what it is. Like, for example, if you built a house, it would be considered 1 ERU.
Mm-hmm.
For example, condos and apartments are a portion of that. I believe they're 0.6 ERUs. Each fixture within a casino is identified as a multiplier of an ERU. Same thing in the fixtures in restaurants, that type of thing. There's a big long list, and that was published in the paper when we first developed those rates, and we can get you a copy of that as far as what the multipliers are for each ERU count.
Okay.
Right now it's $800 per ERU, and that's anticipating covering 2/3 or more of the cost of the entire project. The rest is going to be borne on the current users, which is anticipated to be 1/3, and that was identified as being a reasonable break of the costs, 1/3 to 2/3, and we are currently looking at within the whole valley about a 60 to 70 cents per month per ERU charge to finance that.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mark Vincent, if I can just add a little bit, want to make sure we're clear. We have already passed, back in, I think it was January 3rd, we passed the connection charge. So the new development, when they come in for new plans, as they do today, they come in and they estimate how many equivalent residential units of sewer capacity will they need. So when they come on, they pay a connection charge to buy capacity into the sewer system. Once they're into the sewer, and that's the $800 per ERU that Mr. Brumley's referring to that already exists in our code. Once they're in the system and operating, then they have to pay, like everybody else, for the sewer treatment. This $7 today is the portion that our current users are going to pay per ERU for sewer treatment. So that's the difference between the $800 connection fee when you buy into the system for its capacity, and then the $7 per ERU fee on an annual basis for the ongoing treatment of the wastewater, if that helps.
The $800 is what a developer would pay to connect into the system. The $7 is what a family who's already on the system would pay per year for the treatment situation.
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. McGowan?
Thank you.
And thank you.
John McGowan, Las Vegas resident. I appreciate very much the exhaustively detailed presentations made by the Director of Finance and by the gentleman who just spoke, which appears to explain everything except for one thing. The projection is based on current status. Isn't that correct? And any increase at all in anything within the climate, overall climate, where values are either precipitously or significantly in decline within a region, is significant. And I fail to understand how anybody, whether the director or anybody else for that matter, could describe that kind of an increase as positive. Perhaps it's positive in the director's view, but it may not be positive in the view of all property owners or persons who are impacted by it. The impact is not existing in a vacuum. It exists within a much larger arena of all of the impacts that obtain and affect all members of the society, of the entire community. Some more than others, some less than others. And so the report, although I still appreciate it in its exhaustive detail, is typical of those kind of reports. They are rose-colored glasses reports, in my opinion, because they told you what things were yesterday and up to today. And the minute they begin to predict what's going on tomorrow, or many tomorrows from now, with many, many different people, and many, many different needs and obligations, they really are guessing. It's a guesstimate and approximation. And that needs to be included in the text of the item, or in this public record, that what is said here today is not necessarily factual or holistic. You need to understand that before you vote on things, that you're voting on things for the main part, which are highly questionable in certain instances. The water pipe in Lake Mead, for example. Why is it necessary to go out to a further distance into Lake Mead in order to be able to bring in materials that may not be as polluted as would be in closer to shore? Why is that necessary? Who is responsible for that laxity? Certainly not the director. He might not have been here then. But somebody was. And those are the facts that the public needs to hear and know about before the next election. Thank you.
I will have Mr. Vincent answer the majority of that question. I can tell you from work I'm doing with the Water Authority on their board that it's very obvious the lake is sinking rapidly, and the deeper you can do this, the better it is to get the waste cleaned. And anyway, Mr. Vincent?
Well, Madam Chair, at the risk of encouraging more detail, let me just tell you that the SCOPE project with CWC, that went through, I think, almost 2 years of public meetings, a lot of public outreach, public meetings with the CWC board. Councilman Brown is our representative on that board, so that was a public process. And that was the body that made the decision of the need to go where we're going based on those engineering studies. The cost numbers that Mr. Brumley talked about have been forecasted out. As Mr. Brumley indicated, this project's looking at coming online in 2012. So when we talk about what it's going to cost to do this project, we have forecasted and planned for price increases and inflation increases in that. The $7 that we are recommending today is a rate that we rightly estimate will get us all the way through to 2012 or close to it. So this is a rate that we did not tie a consumer price index increase to it. We set it as a flat rate. Undoubtedly, Mr. McGowan's absolutely right. At some point down the road, we're probably going to come back to the council and ask for a small rate increase on that $7. But for now, it's set at $7, and that should get us at least hopefully 4 or 5 years into the project.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
My name is Ted Russell, resident of Las Vegas. CWC has done an admirable job of disseminating the information all along our newspapers and periodicals also have repeated it and reported it quite well. It happens to be something I'm rather well read on. This is based on sound science and engineering to the best of our abilities, considering current situations, and I do believe that the cost distribution is just and equitable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Mr. Barlow?
Yes, I would like to move for due pass.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I wanted to recommend that we propose a First Amendment to the City Council. We discovered after we introduced this ordinance that some months ago the Planning Department amended their definition of accessory structures where folks live, like guest houses, and we didn't pick that up. And so, as a matter of housekeeping, we would like to add another section to this bill that addresses the chart of what different uses pay per ERU. We heard a reference to condos and apartments being at 0.6. In that same range is this accessory structure issue, and so we'd like to clean that up. That would be another section that we would add, just amending those tables to talk about the new terminology of accessory structures. And then we would also amend, I believe it's Section 7 of the bill that talks about the effective date. The bill as written is scheduled to become effective October 1st to give them some time to transition. And if we added this additional section, we would want to make that immediately effective upon adoption. And so those are the two sections that we would change. We'd like your approval to recommend that as a First Amendment.
Does either or both of those need to be read into the record, or take your comment?
We will have the actual text of it at the council meeting. It's not eligible for adoption tomorrow. Is that right, Bev? That's not. I don't believe that comes up until September, and so we will have the actual text for you. But the concept is just to add that new terminology.
Okay.
And it would be available to the public before the meeting so they could see the addition.
That's correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if it helps, I can explain that the change that we had to do with was a term we used to call it the casita, but the terminology has changed, and so we now have a casita with kitchen facilities and a casita without kitchen facilities, and that subtlety didn't make its way into this. So right now we would have my sewer billing staff's a little confused about what they're supposed to bill. So that's specifically the change.
It's to clarify that situation.
To clarify that.
Mr. Barlow?
So for clarification, when we approved an item a couple meetings ago, I believe it was like an 1,800 square foot guest house, that would qualify under this particular
it would,
ordinance?
This is for a, pardon me for saying, Val, what was the term you used?
Would it be mother's quarters?
I think a guest house
We
is
used
different.
to call it guest house casita, and you could have kitchen facilities or not. And then it was changed to habitable accessory structure. Again, could or could not have full kitchen facilities. And what the planning department recently did is break out accessory structures into Class 1 and Class 2. And they said the Class 1s have full kitchen facilities and the Class 2 don't have full kitchen facilities. And the typical example of that would be a tool shed. And so we have this gap where a guest house or a casita that has either some kitchen facilities or none is kind of left without a sewer category. And we're simply going to address that and treat them all the same, whether or not they have full kitchen facilities. I hope that was much more explanation than you wanted, Councilman.
Thank you.
So you move for approval, is that with the,
I would like to move for approval, subject to staff's amendments being brought forward to the City Council on September 8th, City Council. Move for
September 5th, right?
September
Yeah.
5th.
Okay.
September 5th.
all in favor?
Aye.
We move to the next item, Bill number 2007-47. It amends ordinance number 5291 as amended, creating Special Improvement District number 808 in the Summerlin area proposed by Charles Kajowski, Director of Public Works.
Madam Chair, Mike Thompson, Department of Public Works. Summerlin has made an adjustment to one of their village boundaries, and this amendment incorporates a revised legal description so that the district that we've created is accurately reflects the property within it. And I could answer any questions you had on that.
Do you have any questions? It's just a little bit of detail work. You're not changing anything, but just making sure that the legal description matches what we've got for it.
That's correct. It's really a housekeeping item just to make everything accurate.
Okay. Any comments from the audience?
Tom McGowan, Las Vegas resident. I recommend do pass. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Then Mr. Barlow?
I would like to follow Mr. McGowan's recommendation for due pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We move to the next item, Bill number 2007-48, amends ordinance number 5293 as amended concerning the levy of assessments in Special Improvement District 808, Summerlin area, proposed by Charles Kajowski, Director of Public Works.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Thompson, Department of Public Works. This amendment also incorporates that same revised legal description to take care of the boundary adjustment, and it also amends the ordinance to extend the payment period from 20 years to 30 years. And staff would recommend do pass, and I can answer any questions you have on that.
You're just making the amendment related to the change in the what we did in that other.
There is one additional amendment in this ordinance. The original assessment district was set up for a payback period of 20 years, and this amendment extends that payback period to 30 years.
Does that cause us any problem in finance?
Essentially what's causing this amendment is we're creating a overlay district that's going to sit over this property to put in the actual regional infrastructure. And so this property will actually have two assessments on it. So we're just trying to make the payments match so that both districts will become due and payable at the same time.
Versus the property owner sending out a bill on the 1st and sending out a bill on the 25th. They're merging the two or at least around the same time?
Yeah, it's essentially the maturity date that's changing. The payments will occur at the same periods,
right,
but the maturity of the assessments will be the same for the old district and the new district that's being proposed.
Okay.
So was the old district 30 years?
With this amendment, yes, it would be changed to 30 years.
To match the other district?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any more questions? Any citizen concern?
Tom McGowan, Las Vegas resident. My understanding from the latest information that was apparently not in the text of the item, but is elucidated, is that the total cost will be increasing, albeit projected over a larger number of out years, from 20 to 30. Nevertheless, it is an increased amount. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That responds to my question. And I recommend do pass, but I also recommend careful thought on everything you're acting upon throughout all of your meetings, because they're all interrelated, whether you like it or not. They're interrelated because they affect the people of this community, some more than others, some less than others, and nobody can tell the future. Even Einstein said that. It's difficult, particularly if it involves the future. Now, if this council has some secret on that crystal ball, go right ahead. But bear in mind that you're also liable and responsible and accountable for everything you do. My advice is be very careful about what you do as representatives of the people, because you work for we, the people, not the other way around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the audience, from the public? Mr. Barlow?
Yes, move for due pass. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passes. We now are at our public participation period. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to publicly speak to us?
Ted Russell, resident of Las Vegas. I think anybody in public office for any length of time understands that, as I mentioned, the fact that we were America's most visited city, we've become guilty of our success to some. As the level of success and prosperity and desirability increases, it seems sometimes the cynicism also increases. I have been here only 5 years and some months, but I am very, very encouraged by the commitment for historical preservation. And I did want to, I hope I'm not beating a dead horse. I'm very good at that. I did want to repeat that my error was it was Courtney Love that has done that consolidation and does work constantly with the Historical Preservation Commission. And thank you so much, and have a great evening here in downtown Las Vegas.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your good wishes. Mr. McGowan?
John McGowan, Las Vegas resident. I would be remiss were I not also to offer good wishes to everybody, including the previous speaker. But without a motive, I'm not a recurring favor from anybody. And I said this repeatedly. I'm not your enemy or your friend. In fact, I may be your conscience. That's why I'm here. And so let me begin by saying this. The Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. That's unambiguous. The 6th article of the Constitution empowers the Congress to pass laws to enforce the provisions of the Constitution and the amendments. The First Amendment is the guarantee of free speech and other necessary rights. The 14th Amendment is very important because it is equal protection, the right of equal protection. Once you know something, in retrospect, there was only one person named Rosa Parks. That's all it took to get the job done. One person. The 14th Amendment is not qualified by a numerical threshold. It doesn't require 100, 1,000, 10,000, or 100,000 people in order to go into effect. It is applicable to all people, individually or as variably grouped. The reason I bring this up today is because you're going to hear about this very shortly in City Council. Things take place in City Council, this august and preeminent body, which I fully support, like certain other people in this room do, when they do good things. And I also am very alert and diligent to their activities, how and why they do things, and including the verbiage text of your agenda items, for example. But sometimes they're not disclosed at all what it is you're talking about, or what it is you're acting upon. And so I will say again, equal protection for Rosa Parks, Tom McGowan, and everybody has nothing to do with numbers. When you hear the facts coming in on the City Ride bus, you will understand more fully what I'm talking about. The city just acquired 2 additional buses, hydrogen technology, a cost of $500,000 or thereabouts. They were immediately assigned to the Las Vegas Premium Outlet, which is already served by 5 bus lines. I'll cite them for you if you wish. But take my word for it, there are 5 bus routes to go over there. Why they need 6 is anybody's guess, except one member of the City Council chose to do that, without benefit of any agenda itemized public hearing and meeting, or without any benefit of the voting activities of the colleague members of the council. I say again, this council is not one person, but 7. And this city government is contingent upon proper conduct. Lawful conduct is contingent upon protection and preservation of the Constitution of the United States of America and all the states, including but not limited to Nevada. The minute you understand that fully, you will understand why we, the people, appear before you and speak the way we do. It has nothing to do with respect, admiration, or anything else. It simply has to do with the Constitution. It either is valid or it isn't. In my view, it's valid. And I'll go beyond that. The rights guaranteed secure by the Constitution are not endowed by it. They're guaranteed secure by it. But they are creator endowed. They're endowed by a higher power. Some call it God, or the Supreme Being. And if the Constitution ceased to exist this very minute, those rights would still be guaranteed secure for every person, inclusively and without exception.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
you
what
very
you
much.
need to
Thank you.
remind you of,
Yeah.
what you need to constantly keep in mind as you continue faithfully carrying out your sworn oath of office to protect the Constitution and the government of the United States and the state of Nevada.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any other person from the audience wishing to speak? If none, and seeing none, then the
Well-
meeting is adjourned.
Well, I do. I just would like for my student intern to introduce himself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christopher Wilson. I attend UNLV. I'm currently a senior, and I'm learning as much as possible with Councilman Barlow, Ward 5.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.